30.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to another TMC Connect partner webinar. I'm Melanie Thomas, and today I'm joined by Larry Bailey, founder and CEO of Mortgage Workflow Partners, and Amy Blum, VP of Mortgage Technology Administration at Westgate Bank. They'll be discussing how admins can create and leverage workflows to make their Encompass platform succeed. Before I hand it over to Larry, just a quick reminder that today's session is being recorded. All attendees are currently muted, but we welcome your questions, so feel free to drop them in the chat. Everyone registered will also be receiving a copy of the recording later this week via email. That's all my housekeeping, so I'll hand it over to Larry and Amy.
Thank you. Did Larry just disappear?
I think did Larry just back out?
Oh, I like that. He backs out at the last minute and
That's
leaves me here to do this all by myself.
that's so sus. He wants you to intro him, Amy. He's trying to build up mystery.
Do my drum roll.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
Yes, Amy definitely can do it.
Well,
If
I will
anybody
wait
has
for
any questions
Larry.
for when Larry returns, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah, hopefully he'll come back. But we're going to talk about workflow, and I know that he's going to um, talk a lot about here he comes, why it's so important as an admin to document your workflows. There he is.
There he is. You're muted, Larry. You're still building
I,
anticipation.
I love technology. Isn't technology awesome?
It
I
is.
was
It's
ready to do it
great.
without you, Larry.
Best. It's the best ever. Did we get introed, Amy? Are we live? Are we going?
We are live and we are going.
You're alive. It's
Yes.
Okay.
happening. Everyone's
Good.
waiting for you, Larry.
Hi,
Yes.
everyone. Amy, thanks for joining. My name's Larry Bailey, the guy who doesn't know how to work Zoom and keep an internet connection going with Mortgage Workflow Partners. A wonderful guest today is Amy Blum. We just met. We actually don't know each other at all.
Not
Uh,
a,
but
yep.
but no,
Nice to meet
Amy, if
you.
you want to give introductions so everybody knows who you are.
Sure. I am Amy Blum. I work at Westgate Bank. We are a correspondent investor as well as a mortgage lender. I've been an Encompass admin for about 12 and a half years. Learned a lot over the years, made a lot of mistakes, had a lot of different ideas, and worked with Larry for a number of years now on following him and his expertise and stuff. And this workflows that we talk about is really important. And I think I'm very glad that we've got this going on today so we can kind of let other people know um, some of these important things for being an Encompass admin and what might make your job a little bit easier.
Thank you, Amy. And so just so everybody knows, Westgate does retail and TPO, right? So it's
Mm-hmm.
not you're not just one or the other. And so background story, how'd we get here? Just for everybody joining, thanks everybody, because I know there's a ton of people on here. Thanks for your 30 minutes of your day. When I left retail banking, which was from 93 until about 2012, strictly retail. And I was always the Encompass guy, computer guy, floppy disks into Encompass in 2012. Obviously, we're still on desktop. Now we're on, now we're on web. And so the progress from starting in 2012 until 2026, you would think everybody's workflow has changed. Amy, I don't know how, and all the questions, by the way, you're going to hear Amy and I talk about, we've not pre-rehearsed on purpose because I want us to have a natural conversation. But in 2012, when I went to work for Ellie Mae, which is how I got onto the technical side, I went as an implementation project manager. And the very first questions I always ask is, I was the guy that you came to when you got implemented Encompass. And Amy, for you, when was that? How long ago did you implement?
2013.
2013. Okay. So had we connected at that time, which would have been really cool if we did, but I would have said to you, Amy, where's your written workflow? Because naturally you're a business, you have your SOPs and all of your workflow documented, and you would have said what in 2013?
Actually, I would have said I had just started with the company and they wanted me to implement. And so I actually did have a workflow on all the jobs because I didn't know what anybody did. So I actually did, but that wasn't a thing back then.
Right. It's in 2026, it's still not a thing. So
Right.
I wish there was a way like we do. So every other Tuesday, I do a live AMA, Ask Me Anything for Encompass users and admins on Mastering Encompass community, which you can get to masterencompass.com. It's free. Anybody can sign up. And so I would have asked everybody to raise their hand, like who has their workflow documented. And we would see how many hands do you think we'd see up, Amy, out of 84? Maybe like one,
Yeah, one or two
one
maybe.
or
Yep.
two, which is wild. So, and here's the thing, the reason why I picked this topic was because even now, like even right now, our passionate mortgage workflow partners is to put workflow before technology. It's in our name, it's our slogan. And it's not lip service. It's really focusing in on understanding what is somebody doing. And Amy, you're definitely special because you wanted to document what people did. What did you find? Like when you go through, even today, even now, because I'm sure you didn't do it just in 13, you've kind of maintained these.
We we actually did a workflow, a whole big thing for efficiency through all of the workflows and all of the different jobs on the correspondent side and the retail side, probably maybe 7 or 8 years ago, and found out the biggest thing I found out was the duplication of jobs being done by multiple people and multiple people checking things and stuff. So when you document that workflow, you really see where there's either holes in something not being done or there's things that are being done multiple times. And so that's what I think was key to that. And I did want to say, you talked about a lot of people don't have their workflows documented. And I think a lot of this is me defending the Encompass admins out there, is I think a lot of Encompass admins know the workflows in a general sense,
Yep.
but it's that the documenting them and getting them down on paper and stuff. That's the piece I think that people don't have and they need because sometimes you aren't the only admin anymore. Katie Bode is another admin on my team and stuff. And if I don't document something, she isn't going to know, so we're big on making sure that we document. And that's kind of the key part.
How do you, so, and this has been my thing, right? So as admins, I mean, next week or the week after, we're getting 26.1 release notes for Encompass. If it's anything like in the past, it's probably only about 400 pages of reading, right? It's no big deal. But to ingest that and to understand how all of that impacts your whole business, it's all up here. I mean,
Right.
obviously it's in our heads, and so that's both a blessing and a curse. It's great for job security. It's horrible because you're the one person that knows all this stuff and you maybe have it right or maybe have it wrong. So what we always advocate, and this is a big push for everybody, is to say pick at least one team. And I don't know, I don't know if you did it this way, Amy, when you went through your big review, but pick at least one team and have them go through and see what it is that they're doing. Do you find if you do that, that you actually can get a better sense of what the company is actually doing with Encompass? And are they actually leveraging the things that you thought they were doing or using it in ways?
Oh, 100%. I agree that I always find things that either I think they're doing wrong or doing the hard way. And I'm like, wait, why aren't you doing it that easy way that we made or something? Are they because they forget and they in their daily jobs they've got so much going on and that a lot of times things are changing all the time and they may forget that you trained something back 2 years ago or anything. But so I find that there's always something that I think that they're missing in the system that we could make their job a lot easier and stuff. And the only way you're going to know that is to sit down with them and kind of follow their workflow as they do their jobs and stuff. You're not going to know what they're doing unless you see it in action.
Do you find so when we go through, so as an example, like for Christy Unger. So if anybody's going to the ICE experience show in March, come to our booth. It's 807. And definitely hook up with Christy Unger to have her show you how she conducts these workflow interviews and how she leverages our new piece of software that we just built. Currently, it's in private beta. It's up in the chat. It's workflowcoach.com. And I know, Amy, you had a chance to take a peek and have some opinions about it. But before we get there, it doesn't have to be something special though, right? Like literally you can say, hey, Johnny or Susie in this department, walk me through your steps on the first time you touch the file to the next time to the next time. Do you find that it can be that simple? And even if it's documented on Word or Excel, like just anything is helpful?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because a lot of, especially a processing job, the processing I think has got one of the bigger jobs that are long term, I guess, more in a file. And so they have a lot of little pieces that all get put together. So their one big workflow can be broken down into a lot of little workflow or a lot of little tasks and things like that that they're doing. Um, it is my feeling on that.
Yeah, I found so when I go through when I go through them, a lot of times what we'll do is so to kind of like how do you do this? If you don't have special software, not everybody has access to a Visio or a smart or a Lucid chart or something like that. I tell people just use Excel. Like, and I like Excel because you can put cells in the steps and you can make sub steps and you can give it a little bit more structure. But what I'll always advocate for is go through those steps and then ask them what technologies they're leveraging. I found over the last, I guess some of the more shocking moments are last year when we did some workflow reviews and we found people were literally printing things out of Encompass, putting them into a three-ring binder for quick access. And the managers were like shocked. They were like almost appalled and I'm like, but manager, it's your fault that they're doing that because you didn't give them any better tool. You just never knew they were doing it because you didn't stop to ask. So I don't know if there's any, if you want to call anybody out, Amy, on some of the more shocking things you found, but is there anything that's like, yeah, we were doing that until we realized we were doing it? Is there anything that comes to mind?
Nothing in particular. There was a lot of paper, and over the years, we've really worked to stop with the paper. You don't have to have those files. We can give you better tools on what to use and everything. But I can't think of anything in particular, although I do still have loan officers that will print out their entire credit report because they want to visually see it and stuff like that. So there are things like that that I know that they're keeping paper on that I'm just like, I just cringe every time when I see that color copy of that 30-page credit report come across.
Fun fact, I had a place that I worked at and we legit stopped ordering paper for the office because they and I'm not making this up, they actually had only certain people had paper and if they needed something printed, they'd take the paper out, send the job to the printer and then put it in and then print because they didn't want other people printing. It's pretty wild. All right, so we get there, right? And so if we have these things, these workflows documented, and I'm going to pick on you're in TPO and you're in
Mhm.
retail, so let's pick processing again. Let's stay with what your theme is because it does involve a lot of different parts. Um, when Kelly says he would have a riot if he took away his paper from his office, that's funny, Kelly. And unfortunately, my point. So when we go into processing, how have you found, Amy, from your end? Like, I'll share my ideas, but I want to have everybody hear it from you. How have you found that you've been able to leverage understanding that workflow on your day-to-day or your strategic plans or your release notes updates? How do you go back to finding value in having your workflow documented in the first place?
You know, the value for us is Katie and I like to make changes into the system to make job. One of our main things we want to do is make your job easier and stuff. And so when the workflow is documented, it's easy for us when an update does come out. We can go in and we can see where some of these new things that are coming out might be beneficial. And so we do that every time we have a release. We go through and we decide, okay, this is compliance, this is processing, this is closing here. This, you go through as you're writing in your release notes. I do print those out, by the way. I shouldn't admit that out loud,
Yeah,
but
it's
I
okay.
do print them back to back though, if that helps. But I go through and I make notes within those release notes. Who does this going to affect? All this, and if we didn't have those workflows and everything, I wouldn't be able to do that quite as easily as I do on a quick pass.
Okay. And do you do so? So one of the things that I advocate for, in the Mastering Compass admin coaching certification, as well as it's just stuff I do online, is always do this stuff electronically. So if you are going to the audience or anybody watching this, if you are going to take the time to document your workflow, please make sure it's done in an electronic format. And the reason for that is as you build out your departments, you want to be able to spot a particular movement or piece of technology across your entire organization to see what's going on. Good examples I just had. See if this is believable, Amy, for you or anybody else. By the way, if you have a question or you have something you want to put in chat, feel free. I think that's okay if you have any questions on this stuff. But we had completed a workflow review for a pretty large, mostly non-retail lender. They do a lot of non-QM, and they were wondering why their files couldn't move faster. And I like typed in the word title review or review title, it might have been, and it came up 12 different times in their workflow. So they had processors reviewing title, underwriters reviewing title, closers reviewing title, and then funders also, just for good sake, for good measure. So then I'm like, all right, well, if I got 12 on title, I can only imagine what appraisal looks like. There was 25 different appraisal touches.
Wow.
And the only way we came up to discover that was because we documented the entire company's workflow electronically, meaning in our case, and I'll show everybody a quick example of what Workflow Coach does, but that happened to still be in Visio. So it doesn't have to be a particular program as long as it's electronically documented. But then what do you do about it, right? Like how do you change people? So Amy, besides you taking out your big stick that you like to hit people with, apparently, it's what I'm told by
Only
Katie.
on Tuesdays.
I thought Katie, not that's Katie, so she could be making things up.
Katie wields the big stick.
Yeah, yeah. But besides that, like, how do you find the momentum to help people understand? Like, listen, I know you're doing it this way. I really need you to do it this other way because it's going to be better. Do you have any insights for everybody?
You know, I will tell you my biggest thing on that is getting the buy-in first. And so if you ask for their input and you ask for this and then you say, well, what if we could do it this way instead? And you have them involved in those process changes all along the way, you'll get so much better buy-in at the end. It's kind of amazing and stuff. And then train it really well.
Okay.
Make sure you've documented, here's the new process that you're going to do. So they have something to fall back on, and then be available. And I will tell you a side effect of documenting these workflows and working with them is they actually will come back. They get used to you making their jobs easier. And we have our processors and our closers actually, they schedule quarterly meetings with us now where we sit for an hour in a big room and we go over all the things that they're like, I keep having to click this button way too many times. And can we have this set automatically on this? They know now what to ask for. Once we've kind of empowered them
Sure.
to say there's nothing that you can ask for that's too dumb. I mean, the worst we can say is, I don't think we can do that, but so now they actually proactively schedule the meeting, meet with us, we sit with them, and then we spend the next 2 days making all the changes we can, to show that we are very reactive to them. So
Do you
that's an
find
unexpected side benefit that we found out over the last couple of years.
do you find that some people think you're trying to get them out of a job because you want to find out what they're doing?
You know what? I have one more opposite that every time I've all these EPC service changes,
Yeah,
we
yeah.
keep sending out, okay, now order this way, now you got to order this way and everything. And he's convinced that we're trying to get processors out of jobs and everything. And so he's being protective of his processors, which is great and stuff. But I keep convincing him, I said, no, it's just freeing them up to do more loans for you. So I keep trying to tell him,
Which is the truth. I
no,
mean,
yeah, which
truthfully,
it
that
is
that
the
is the
truth.
truth, right?
But he has brought it up to me probably 4 or 5 times in the last 6 months that he thinks that we're just trying to get processors out of jobs and
Right.
underwriters out of jobs. And I'm
There's
like,
an
nope.
ulterior motive, like you're trying to redo a reduction in force and figure out.
Right.
And this is a
Right.
real thing we face. So I mean, think about it. Imagine mortgage workflow partners came into your company, Amy, and we're like asking everybody what they do, right? We're documenting it. Like it's got to give it a bad look if we don't explain what the heck we're really doing. And so what I want everybody to take from this is, first of all, to do your own workflow review with people that you work with all the time, it's really tough because there's a lot of personal connection. And again, I don't know if you hit this when you or Katie does this, Amy, but sometimes it's, well, you know what I do, Larry. Like this is the work I do. Like, what do you mean? What do I do? You know what I do. And
Yeah.
so, do you hit that a lot sometimes when you're trying to go through these workflow pieces? Do you have them do self-assessments? Like, how do you get past
Sometimes,
that?
sometimes we do, but a lot of times when we explain why we want it, we say, we know we want you to go very basic. I don't need the details on a lot of what you're doing. I said, let's just start with a very basic workflow and what you just kind of document what you do. And that seems to work. And I tell you what, they get used to you coming and asking them stuff, and then they get used to it, or they'll come back to
Okay.
you and tell you some of their workflow has changed. Hey, I just did that workflow for you, but some things have changed because we've switched who's doing this or whatever. And I'm like, okay, great. And or they get used to us coming and asking, okay, how exactly are you doing this? What's the process for this? And so they don't think of it as it's a threat, or is it, oh, she's just trying to figure out what I'm doing or reporting to my boss. I'm not doing. We just truly want to know because they know that we have their best interest at heart, that we're just trying to make things better for them.
Do
So
you think
that's a trust that's built, but
it does take time? It does take time. And what I know from our conversation so far for everybody else, again, this all this stuff isn't to like put it, document it, and put it in a book, right? This is a living, breathing thing that gets referenced not only by, in your case, by all of your team members who are constantly looking at this, but also as admins, which is the whole point of this topic today, is to look at it and go, holy crap, I didn't realize they were doing that. Like I need to go fix that. Or, oh, we're going to be updating this piece over here. I better go make sure that they're not also affected because I've done that. Like if you're an admin and you've never turned a screw over here and unexpectedly affected 25 people that are now upset with you, you haven't been an admin very long. We've
how
all
many
done it.
tickets can you get in 10
Right.
minutes?
How many tickets can you get in 10 minutes is a race. I think my max was 300 at one time. Um, so uh, so the takeaway really for the process, obviously, and I want to show everybody kind of what we're using now at Mortgage Workflow Partners with Christie's team, the Workflowology team, to do the workflow interviews. And it's what of our all of our client project leaders and support team members reference now to kind of get an idea of what we're doing. And so before I do that, one last question for you, Amy. By documenting the workflows, are you then also empowering? Do you feel more empowered as an admin because you have a better sense of what you should be implementing or what you need to
Yes.
work on for the next quarter or whatever?
I do. It's knowing the workflows as a general rule. I mean, there's things like one of the processes was just talking about one of the workflow with tax transcripts, and I'm like, gosh, why haven't we signed up that new vendor? I knew we should have signed them up 2 years ago, and we haven't done it, and because of how it's charged and everything, and so it uncovers a lot of things, not just in the workflow itself, but in other things and in other projects. And I know you're going to get to the workflow coach thing, but I will tell you that one of my favorite things on that is when you document your workflow, I can throw that workflow into a project and then I can make changes right there within the project and stuff. So if you're using it as kind of like how many times do we all have projects going on, seems constantly. We've got 18 things we're juggling. And
Yep.
when you're taking your stuff and you're notating all the things about your project, having that, being able to build that workflow out and actually throw it right into your project and say like, okay, here's where I know these changes need to be made because here's the current workflow, here's where it's going. And then you can use that as an example. And it's just, I don't know. I just was kind of really thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so what's on screen right now for everybody, this is what I created, Workflow Coach. I'm not a developer by any stretch. I had to basically scratch my own itch. And we would use Visio. And so we use Basecamp for everything. We usually have a Visio chart of all the stuff that Christy and her team would document. And what was happening was we were disconnecting between what's in the workflow here, right, to be this visual state of what's going on. And then you identify which settings are addressed within this workflow. So all of this stuff. The reason why I'm showing this on screen is because I want you to just understand that this is not a complicated output. It's not meant to be this big flow chart and all these other things. Can you visualize that, how that looks? Sure. But one of the problems with this kind of a thing in human learning is we don't see this. What we see is this step by step, linear flow. This happens, that happens, the other thing happens. And what I want you to really understand is that when we developed this and push this out, it was asking these sub steps. It wasn't just asking the main part. So I don't know, Amy, on when you go through if you found the same thing. But what we find is if we just say, "Oh, well, I review the pro," or whoever this is, the process. I think it's underwriting. They review and update borrower summary, and I'm like, "All right, well, how do you do that? Like, what are the steps that you follow? Do you find that same thing when you go into the?"
I love the sub steps and stuff on here to do that because it's it's never just one big thing. It's always, okay, is this triggering something else? Is this, if I do this, what happens if this is there or that is there? So you can kind of document all of it within this.
Yeah. And so what Amy was talking about is so then I got into okay, well, now I have to create a project because what we found, even with our own implementations and other things that we do, we get lost in the workflow updates, especially if there's two or three things going on. And so we developed this projects component. And so it gives you like a visualized timeline and your work streams and your workflows, and you can backlink right over to the workflow that it spits out. And so all of these things are, I'm just kind of giving everyone a tease on today's recording. If you're at TMC over in a couple of weeks here out in Arizona, we're going to be doing, if you have any questions about this, if you want to see this in person and see how we can maybe get you into the private beta to use this and give us great feedback. We'll also be at the, again, like I said earlier, the ICE Experience, booth 807. We'll be doing demonstrations. Christy's going to go through how she gets all these steps out. And it's similar to what Amy, you just said, right? So you ask questions, you interview, you document, and most importantly, you do call outs for the things that need to happen. And like moving to using schedulers or moving to using enhanced conditions. Like these are seemingly large movements from a technology perspective, but how it interacts with the whole workflow, that's why I wanted to have today's conversation. And Amy, I really appreciate you being here with me. Any before we lose everybody here at the bottom of the half hour, is there any final thoughts that you'd give the team that showed up here and spent their time with us today?
I would say if you have not documented your workflows, it's got to be incredibly overwhelming when you think about doing it. But just take one job, one person, pick the smallest one. If you've got somebody on your team who really likes to do stuff like this, ask. I have an underwriter who loves to do this, and he was my first one I went to. I said, "Hey, could you document what you do?" just on a very basic high level. And he's like, "Sure," And so he sent me. He had it be by the end of the day. And I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just start with one little one, start small, and then just build off of that. Be my
Yeah,
recommendation.
I couldn't second that any stronger. You don't need to do everything all at once. I've also found that if you're going through and you feel like you're spending money somewhere, like I do this from an executive perspective, if your execs are constantly hitting you like we got to do better in this team, that's the first place I'm going. And in the last piece of advice I give everybody, think of it if you've ever done any woodworking, there's a tool called a planer. And you take this really raw material, lots of bumps, and you feed it, and you feed it, and you feed it. And that's what you need to do with your workflow reviews. This is how it helps actually admins because you're not going to get it done the first or second or even third time. And Amy, you've been doing this for a while. You've got to go through and keep refining. So Maggie asked the question, how does the workflow coach handle people having slightly different workflows within the same teams, whether they should or not? I can tell you, Maggie, we actually did a workflow review for a team of thousands, and they have about 150 different branches. Every branch does something different. And so within there, you have to define what they're doing. And so how that's handled slightly different. You might have multiple workflows for Larry's team or Amy's team or Melanie's team. And it is what it is. And that's exactly what it's built for because you want to be able to document what are people actually doing and then come back with best practice recommendations. Maybe they keep doing what they're doing in Amy's team, but maybe my team and Melanie's team, we've got to like tweak something to catch up with Amy's better practices. So great question.
Can they beta test your work? Can they be in there too?
So we're taking on private beta applications very slowly. Like we we need to make sure everybody's using this. So yeah, with current clients
Because
are all part of it.
I'm just playing around with it now too. I
Yeah,
just started just beta testing it just to see what it can do, and I'm already impressed. So,
yeah. Well, thank you for that.
and I was
And
going to say
thanks.
Maggie. I don't know if Maggie's on mortgage workflow partners and stuff like that too. I didn't know if you would,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
could reach
Anybody
out.
who's if you're part of the admin, if you're part of the admin coaching cohort, you've already been granted a pass. So hit me up directly. And Melanie, I appreciate the time with the Mortgage Collaborative for helping us put this together today. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for attending, and we look forward to seeing everyone in Scottsdale.
Yes, we
Thank
do.
All right. Take care, everybody. Thank
See
you
you now.
today.
Bye bye.